Your encouragement is significant. As 90% of our viewers have not yet subscribed, we invite your support to continue producing captivating content. Kindly subscribe and activate the notification bell. Share with us your location by dropping your city in the comments below. It was unimaginable to find myself in this moment, poised at the brink of a life I had meticulously crafted, grappling with doubts about everything I once held as unchangeable. The foundation of my life was built upon my marriage, my home, and my roles as a wife, a mother, and a cherished member of a close-knit family. Yet beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect life, a subtle pain had started to emerge, weaving its way through the fissures of my heart, much like ivy clinging to an old stone wall. I reassured myself it was trivial, a momentary unease stemming from the monotony of daily life. Yet, beneath the surface, I was aware of the truth. It started at a family gathering, one of those summer afternoons that lingered into the evening, where laughter and conversation blended with the aroma of grilled food and the buzz of cicadas. Our families had always been connected, tied not only by blood, but by shared traditions, by holidays spent together, by the unspoken understanding that family was everything. Among the familiar faces was one that had always lingered in the background, yet on that day, it captured my attention in a way it never had before. Liam was my husband's cousin, and while we had shared countless family gatherings, I had regarded him as little more than a distant figure in the tapestry of my existence. He was subdued, introspective, the type of individual who favored the edges of a bustling gathering over its heart. Yet that summer, there was an unmistakable change in him. Or perhaps it was I who had transformed. As the sun sank low and the sky transformed into a gentle hue of lavender, we sat together on the porch, distanced from the clamor of the gathering. Our dialogue unfolded as it typically did, filled with courteous questions and reminiscences of previous family gatherings. Yet, at some point in the journey, it transformed. Our conversation flowed effortlessly, revealing a richness in his words that struck a chord within me, catching me off guard. He shared his aspirations, his challenges, his yearning to uncover significance in a world that frequently seemed empty. I was entranced, not only by his words, but by the emotions he evoked within me, making me feel acknowledged and comprehended in a manner I hadn't experienced in years. It wasn't love, not just yet, but it was something more, a flicker of connection. A subtle quiver, a gentle awakening within the core of my being. It filled me with dread. In the days that came after, I endeavored to set aside the recollection of that night, to conceal it under the burden of my obligations. Yet Liam remained in my mind, reminiscent of a tune that refused to fade away. I reassured myself that it was merely a fleeting instance, a brief spark of connection that held no significance in the larger picture. Ultimately, my affection for my husband was profound. Elijah was a remarkable individual, generous and trustworthy, the kind of companion that many women would admire. We had crafted a life intertwined, a tapestry woven with shared aspirations and serene satisfaction. Despite my efforts to concentrate on all the reasons my heart should stay resolute, I couldn't ignore the widening gap between us. Marriage, I discovered, was far from the enchanting story I had once envisioned. It wasn't a perpetual surge of fervor or an infinite flow of joy. It was a delicate balance, a familiar rhythm, the gradual intertwining of two existences into a singular tapestry. Somewhere along this journey, amid the challenges of parenting, managing finances, and dealing with the everyday grind of adult life, the connection between Elijah and me had faded. Our love for each other remained undeniable, and I was convinced of that. Yet, it was a love that had settled into a routine, familiar, and, if I were truthful, somewhat unexciting. Liam, with his quiet intensity and contemplative gaze, seemed like a whisper of something I had misplaced, a reflection of the person I once was before life grew so burdensome. Initially, our exchanges were pure, marked by a fleeting smile exchanged from across the room during a family gathering, or a short chat in the kitchen while others busied themselves. Yet every instant seemed alive, as though the space between us buzzed with things left unsaid. I reassured myself it was innocuous, that I was overanalyzing the situation. As the weeks morphed into months, I discovered a compelling urge to seek him out, irresistibly attracted to him in a manner that defied explanation. It wasn't merely his presence that drew me in, it was the way he appeared to penetrate the mask I donned, revealing the restless, yearning spirit that lay beneath. I recall the moment our bond transitioned from pure to something deeper. It was a brisk autumn evening, the sort where the air carries the scent of dried leaves and the sky unfolds like a tapestry of stars. We convened at my in-laws' residence for a family dinner, and as the evening progressed, I ventured outside for a brief moment of solitude. I discovered Liam standing by the porch railing, his breath forming wisps in the crisp night air. We conversed as we typically did, yet this time our words carried a heaviness, an openness that had previously been absent. I felt as though I had been drifting through my existence, the admission escaping my lips before I could hold it back. It feels as though I'm merely existing, going through the motions without truly living. Liam hesitated before replying. He shifted his eyes toward the horizon, a pensive look crossing his face. He finally responded, "I understand what you're saying." At times, I find myself questioning whether this is merely existence, rather than truly embracing life. His words resonated profoundly within me, and for a brief moment, we remained there in quietude, the silent connection between us stronger than any words we might have exchanged. When he finally turned to look at me, his eyes conveyed a blend of sorrow and an indescribable emotion, causing my heart to flutter unexpectedly. In that instant, I realized we were teetering on the edge of a transformation that could alter the course of everything. As the fissures in your existence start to emerge, they reveal themselves gradually, not in a sudden rush. They emerge subtly, nestled within the corners of your daily habits, infiltrating your essence like moisture permeating through rock. The burden of my decisions, those fleeting instances, murmurs in the shadows, and the widening gulf of remorse, had ultimately woven itself into the very essence of my soul. I believed I could endure it. I believed I could navigate two existences, harmonizing the individual I once was with the one I had transformed into. Yet, the truth possesses an uncanny ability to emerge, regardless of attempts to stifle it. The day following my encounter with Liam in the park, the atmosphere seemed denser. The choice to sever our bond ought to have provided me with a sense of relief, maybe even a form of closure. Yet, it created an emptiness within me that I found impossible to overlook. The thought of confronting my husband, Elijah, with the truth loomed over me like a heavy burden I wasn't prepared to bear. I had always taken pride in my strength, in being the type of individual who could endure any tempest. Yet this tempest was born from my own hands, and the devastation it would unleash filled me with dread. In the following days, I found myself enveloped in a fog of introspection, pondering how I had allowed circumstances to unravel so drastically. I revisited each moment of our marriage in my thoughts, seeking the instances where we stumbled, where we permitted the silence to expand between us. Elijah had consistently been my anchor, a reliable and unwavering force in my existence. He wasn't the kind to overwhelm me with extravagant displays or bold proclamations of affection, yet his commitment shone through in the subtle details. The manner in which he prepared my coffee, perfectly tailored to my taste each morning, the way he grasped my hand in challenging moments, the calm reassurance in his voice that instilled a sense of hope that everything would turn out fine. And yet, at some point in the journey, I had ceased to truly notice him. I had ceased to pay attention. As I lingered at the kitchen table late one evening, the house enveloped in silence except for the gentle hum of the refrigerator, I realized I could no longer conceal the truth from him. The remorse consumed me, and each time I met his gaze, I sensed the weight of my deception. He had the right to know, regardless of the pain it might bring him. How do you reveal to the one you cherish that you have been unfaithful? How do you discover the phrases that will break their reality apart? As I mustered the bravery to voice my thoughts, the stillness of a quiet Sunday afternoon enveloped me. The children were enjoying time with their friends, while the home was enveloped in the gentle, warm glow of late autumn. Elijah sat comfortably in the living room, engrossed in a book, his glasses resting on the bridge of his nose. The scene was so familiar and comforting that for a fleeting moment, I nearly persuaded myself to turn away, to allow the moment to slip by and keep my secret hidden. Yet, as he gazed at me, his face radiating warmth and affection, I realized that my concealment was futile. "Elijah," I started, my voice quivering. "May we have a conversation?" He placed the book aside, a subtle furrow appearing on his forehead. "Certainly," he remarked, his voice steady yet inquisitive. "What thoughts are swirling in your head?" I settled into my seat opposite him, my fingers intertwined firmly in my lap. My heart raced with such intensity that it drowned out my own thoughts. The phrases I had practiced countless times in my thoughts suddenly seemed insufficient, diminished when confronted with the reality I was on the verge of disclosing. "I must share something with you," I finally managed to say, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper. "There's something I've been meaning to share with you for quite a while now." His gaze met mine, revealing a glimmer of worry, a subtle trace of discomfort. "All right," he replied with a measured tone, "I'm all ears." And thus I conveyed my thoughts to him. I shared with him the widening gap that had formed between us, the solitude that had seeped into our union, and how I had permitted myself to find comfort in another's company. I shared with him the story of Liam, detailing how it all began, the way it developed, and ultimately, how I brought it to a close. I presented the truth plainly and refrained from rationalizing my choices. I bared my soul to him, unvarnished and honest, my voice trembling with the heaviness of my truth. Upon completion, the ensuing silence was overwhelming. Elijah fixed his gaze on me, his face a mask of inscrutability, his hands tightly balled in his lap. I could perceive the anguish in his gaze, the sense of betrayal, yet also the struggle it required for him to maintain his composure. He remained calm and composed. He remained still, taking in the gravity of what I had said. "What is the duration?" he inquired at last, his tone quiet and tense. "For how long has this been happening?" "For months," I confessed, my voice quivering. "Yet it has come to an end." I brought it to a close. "I promise you, Elijah, I never intended to cause you pain." "Stop," he said, raising a hand. "Please cease." The gaze he held shattered me. It was a blend of frustration, sorrow, and an indescribable feeling, something that eluded my grasp. He rose suddenly, moving restlessly around the room as if grappling with the weight of the revelation he had just encountered. I felt compelled to contact him, to express my deep remorse, yet I understood that no words could repair the harm I had caused. "I need some time," he said at last, his voice strained. "I require some time for contemplation." With that, he exited the room, and I was left alone, burdened by the heavy weight of my guilt. In the days that ensued, the air in our home was heavy with unease. Elijah seemed aloof, engaging in brief and mechanical exchanges with me. He immersed himself in his tasks, dedicating extensive hours at the office and returning home well after dark. In his presence at home, he kept his distance, slipping away to the study or the bedroom in silence. The stillness that once wrapped around us like a warm embrace now loomed like an insurmountable divide. I felt compelled to connect with him, to plead for his forgiveness, yet I was at a loss for how to proceed. I had shattered something delicate and invaluable between us, and I was uncertain if it could ever be repaired. One evening, while I was tidying up after dinner, he strolled into the kitchen and leaned against the counter, arms crossed over his chest. For a brief instant, he merely observed me, his face a mask of ambiguity. "We must have a conversation," he stated at last, his tone unwavering yet resolute. I nodded, placing the dish I was holding back into the sink. "Understood." He motioned to the dining table, and we took our seats facing one another. The atmosphere surrounding us was thick with unexpressed thoughts, the quiet lingering until he eventually shattered it. He started, his voice steady, "I've been reflecting deeply on what you shared with me, and I must understand the reason behind it. What was it about me that fell short for you?" His question pierced through me, and tears welled up as I grappled with the search for the perfect response. "It wasn't that you weren't sufficient," I finally admitted, my voice trembling. "It centered around my experiences." I found myself adrift, feeling a profound sense of disconnection. Rather than reaching out to you, rather than sharing my feelings, I ended up making a choice I now regret deeply. I allowed myself to think that what I lacked was beyond your reach, when in reality, I never afforded you the opportunity. He nodded slowly, a contemplative look crossing his face. He acknowledged, I'm not claiming to be without fault. I've realized I've been distant at times, and I've taken you for granted. I never imagined you would seek comfort in someone else. My apologies, Elijah, I said, my voice heavy with feeling. I understand that I've caused you pain, and I don't anticipate your forgiveness to come easily, but I'm committed to doing everything necessary to mend our relationship.